Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Anthem video, and today I want to talk about Endgame. The other week I had a chance to go to an event in London and record some more Anthem gameplay for you guys as part of the EA Game Changers program, and while I was there I got a chance to jump in to some early Endgame characters, some level 30 javelins with some fully decked out epic and masterwork gear, and jump into a couple of endgame activities, namely legendary contracts and the second stronghold, both of which you probably should have seen gameplay of on the channel by now. But what I wanted to do today is try and summarise what we currently know about Anthem's endgame. There is still stuff we have yet to discover, and some stuff we may not discover until launch, because endgame is one of those things that often carries mystery around it. But I did want to try and summarise what we currently know, so that for those of you guys that are curious as to what endgame looks like, you have an idea as to some of the activities that will be available. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below if you have any questions. Now, to begin with, when you hit level 30, this is of course your level cap, and once you get there, this is when the quote-unquote end game begins. At this point, you will then unlock the additional tiers of difficulty, Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3, and keep in mind, this can then be applied to absolutely everything that you do. If you go back into free play, you can set that to Grandmaster 1, 2, or 3. If you go into missions, contracts, legendary contracts, into strongholds, any and every activity, you can set the difficulty for. And of course, when you play on higher tier difficulties, you have better chances at rarer gear. So when you get to level 30, yes, admittedly, when you first hit level 30, you probably won't be diving straight into Grandmaster 3 or even Grandmaster 1. I tried that with one of the fresh level 30 characters, and the enemies hit kind of hard. So maybe you won't be doing that straight away, but once you do start collecting some decent gear, you start speccing out your build, you start working into those higher tier difficulties, that is of course going to give you a better chance at those masterworks, and of course, those legendaries, which will be the key parts in really min-maxing and specialising your build. So difficulty is of course unlocked when you hit level 30, but on top of that, you also have access to legendary contracts. Now, as you play throughout the game, you will have access to contracts, which, you'll get them from the agents. Sometimes you're walking around Fort Tarsis and you will speak to different agents from the different factions, and they will then give you contracts. These will show up on the contract board, you can pick them up, and you can see that upon completing them, you get designated loot. Plus, of course, you'll get whatever loot you get in the process just simply by, killing enemies, completing the quests, completing all your milestones and achievements, all that stuff like that. However, when you hit level 30, you get to end game, legendary contracts can show up periodically. Now, these won't necessarily be there all the time, but they are something that, you check in every single day, and maybe they'll show up on the board. And these are designed to be more difficult versions of contracts, and typically when it's more difficult, it also yields better rewards. You guys got a chance to see one of these on the live stream, plus I had a chance to play through one myself, and these will basically change every single time you jump in. Even if you jump into the legendary contract and you then fail it and you go back in, it might be different the second time around. The enemies are randomly chosen when you begin the quest, when you begin the contract, so that way essentially if you do them back to back or you do multiple, one after another, then hopefully they'll be different each time to keep things slightly more fresh. I mean, I imagine there will be a finite number of permutations, but regardless, the idea behind that is to try and make it so that they are more enjoyable and different each time you jump in. And these are essentially, for those of you guys that haven't necessarily encountered the notion of contracts just yet, they're essentially short missions or bounties if you want. They are quick things you can pick up, you run through, typical engagements, depending on the difficulty you're playing on, depending on the challenge that's presented, probably say, 10-15 minutes to complete them, and then of course they end up in some loot. So you can kind of see these as quick activities that on a daily basis, you can load into Fort Tarsis, you can jump in, you can check the quest board, pick up a contract, go out and do that quickly. So if you didn't necessarily have, say, 2 or 3 hours to sink into a big Anthem play session, these are the sort of things you would jump into and complete very quickly. Of course, on top of that, you also have daily, weekly, and monthly trials. If you are down in the basement of Fort Tarsis, essentially where you start the game, when you're walking through, if you look over to the right-hand side, you will see these little sort of hourglasses, and these are linked to daily, weekly, and monthly challenges. When you inspect them, you can see they might say things like complete X number of missions, complete X number of challenges, go and complete a specific stronghold. And that way you can, daily, weekly, and monthly, you have different things to focus on. Of course, things like monthly challenges will take much longer. The daily ones will typically be, say, a single activity completion or a few simple things you can do within a short space of time. But these two are things you can work towards. These two will be things that can lead to more loot. And of course, loot is ultimately what makes the world go round in a game like this. So you have those activities that can keep you busy. And then on top of that, of course, you also have strongholds. Strongholds are, right now, to our knowledge, some of the most challenging content in Anthem. You've currently had a chance to play through the Tyrant Mine, which is the one that was in the VIP demo. Plus, if you saw the video I uploaded on Friday, then you would have seen the second stronghold, which is the Temple of the Scar, which ends in that really cool boss. I won't actually say what it is, just in case you haven't seen it, but It's a pretty cool stronghold, and these are essentially dungeons. You work through waves of enemies, you complete some objectives, you fight a big boss, and you get some loot in the end. They're pretty fun, they take a little bit longer, you know, typically 20 to 30 minutes depending on how efficient your team is or the difficulty you're playing on, but these are, again, bigger activities, they yield a decent amount of loot, and they're of course things that you can keep playing on repeat when you start farming those items. So currently, we know about contracts and legendary contracts, we know about strongholds, and we know about daily, weekly, and monthly trials. Of course, on top of that, there's crafting. If you dive into the codex, I've shown this before in the crafting video, but in the codex, of course, you can see that by using different weapons, you can unlock higher rarity blueprints. So, for example, if you really like a weapon like that Devastator sniper rifle, which is incredibly powerful, then completing challenges for that will, of course, unlock the higher rarity blueprints, which will eventually get you to the masterwork blueprints, so you can start crafting that. Keep in mind that every time you craft, you get random inscriptions, so if you really are trying to min-max your build, then that will of course be something that you will actively be pursuing. So it's pretty cool the way it works, the fact that you simply just play the game, use the items you want, and you get better versions of those items in the process, or at least the ability to craft them. And then of course outside of that, you can then dive back into free roam, because again, with the new difficulties, you can add additional things to do. And then of course, by completing world events on, say, Grandmaster 3, you're going to, again, get better chances of better loot. So, as it currently stands, that's what we currently know. That is what we know about Anthem's endgame right now. Of course, there are still more things to discover. Hopefully, as we get close to launch, maybe we hear more about it, or maybe it's one of those things we have to discover ourselves post-launch. And of course, factoring in, there will also be additional post-launch support, post-launch content. This is, of course, a game that will continue to evolve, a world that will continue to grow. So I personally am excited to find out what else we'll have in store for us. But for the time being, for those of you guys that want us to know some of the stuff you can be doing in Anthem's endgame, that's what we have right now. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here, but once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.